Here I am again. Last Friday I said that I wasn't going to make a video this week because I would be in Kenya, and unfortunately I didn't manage to get on the plane because there was a problem with my visa, because there was a problem with my passport. However, tomorrow I am going on the plane, so I'll just be 5 days later, unfortunately. So next week there probably won't be a video. There might be a video. I won't promise anything. But then this week there is a video because I am home alone. I've been bored out of my mind the last few days because I canceled all my sessions this week. And actually, it's been good because I had a week to absolutely do nothing and just let myself rest. And that made me very inspired for a video today. I want to talk today about a question that I actually get a lot from clients of mine or people that message me, which is kind of the question of, is it normal to have a lot of existential anxiety when you're struggling with DPDR? And also, is it normal to be having dissociation symptoms when struggling with existential anxiety? So today I want to explain why existential dread, existential anxiety, existential OCD goes hand in hand very often with depersonalization and derealization, and vice versa. So for most of the people I work with, what I notice is that it's always starting with one or the other. Sometimes it starts like kind of at the same time, like with a deep existential realization that kind of makes you dissociate. But for a lot of people, including myself, it's like one starts to trigger the other. And so it's kind of the chicken and the egg story sometimes, like not knowing what came first, because for me, I've always been an existential thinker. I studied philosophy in university, but I also had a few memories of having a kind of vague symptom of depersonalization or derealization before knowing kind of what it was. And then I had my whole existential crisis panic attack at the airport in Greece, which, if you didn't know this, I talk about this in my previous videos. I don't know which ones exactly, but basically, my whole DPDR episode was triggered by a gigantic panic attack, existential panic attack at an airport. And that triggered my sense of depersonalization and derealization because I'd been having a lot of existential questions about death and the meaning of life the week prior to that. And then when coming at the airport, I suddenly just like had this wave of existential dread with this huge sense of disconnection from reality wave over me. Like I couldn't recognize anyone. I couldn't realize that I was a human in a body living a human experience. Like it just was too much for me. So I want to talk about why these two go hand in hand because first of all, existential anxiety is more about an awareness that you have or more about certain thoughts that you have, whereas depersonalization and derealization is very much a feeling, like a feeling of disconnection, a feeling of hyper awareness, a feeling of dissociation. The quickest and easiest way to explain is that we are very holistic creatures in the sense that our thoughts and emotions, our perceptions and our sensations and our emotions are all extremely connected. That's why my approach to recovery is always a very, very holistic one. We don't focus just on how we think, we don't focus just on how we feel, we don't focus on just how we act, we focus on all three areas at the same time if we really want to bring about change. And so knowing that we are these holistic creatures of which thought, feeling, and action kind of work together, once you start thinking a certain way, a way that is different, that is new, it impacts how you start to feel emotionally, but also how you start to feel physically or sensationally. And I'll start with an example. If I have a thought that says, I am ugly, then I will feel really uncomfortable in my skin. And that feeling might turn into my body language kind of crawling in and me making myself smaller or looking down. So my whole body's kind of reacting to this thought that I'm having, this belief that I'm having that I'm ugly in this sense, which I don't think, but it's just an example. If I have a thought that says I'm in danger, then my body will kind of create a physiological response of adrenaline and anxiety that spikes up, and I will feel the need to run or move away or do something. And therefore, my image of life will also have a more darker color. Like if I really think that I'm in danger and I feel like I'm in danger, therefore my perception of life starts to change and I start seeing life as if I'm in danger. So if I start thinking existentially, I start questioning life, I start questioning death and life and why we're here, which basically means I'm zooming out of life a little bit. Because when you question something, you go from being in the thing to zooming out and looking at the thing. So when I'm questioning reality by thinking existentially, I'm really, really questioning it from a zoomed out perspective of why are we here, and what is life, and what is my consciousness, and start to ask all these existential questions. That zooming out itself actually starts to create a disconnect between me and life, or me and myself, depending on if I'm questioning myself or if I'm questioning life or existence. So for people that DPDR is influenced in this way, they start to think existentially, so they start zooming out a little bit. And then also, if that creates fear, if you start to feel fear for existence because your perspective on life changes to one of unsafety when you question too deeply, then that fear plus that zooming out can lead to a feeling of panic and derealization. The other way around, say that I start with depersonalization or derealization because of trauma, because of bad experience with weed or drugs or whatever, and I suddenly find myself in a state of depersonalization or derealization, which it comes about because either when you're feeling unsafe, you have your fight response, you fight the danger, you have your flight response, you run away from the danger. But if you're unsafe in a situation that you can't fight or run from, then we create dissociation as a protection mechanism, because logically speaking, if we were to be under attack and we can't run, we can't fight, then at least we can disconnect so that we don't have to feel the pain. That's logically speaking where dissociation comes from, is a protection mechanism from being trapped or feeling really in danger and feeling powerless to do anything about it. So again, if you think about it that way, feeling powerless to do anything about it, if you feel trapped in a situation and you feel powerless to do anything about it, if you feel trapped in existence, you feel scared in existence, and you feel powerless to do anything about it, your brain tries to run away first. You start to find escape from life. You can't. Your brain starts to fight life, try to handle it with strength or overcome it. It can't. Therefore, you dissociate. So that's another way of understanding why existential fear triggers DPDR sometimes. But again, I was explaining the other way around. If you, for example, are traumatized by something really scary happens, you have a really bad panic attack, for example. For a lot of people, a terrifying panic attack starts off their DPDR. It's like that initial thing that brings it about. Not for everyone. Don't think you're the odd one out if this is not how you've experienced it. But for a lot of people, this is how it goes. They experience a really, really painful panic attack. They feel so unsafe. They can't run. They can't fight. They completely depersonalize or derealize because they feel so unsafe that their nervous system feels like they're unable to stay in the present moment. So they disconnect from themselves or from reality. Again, you go into that disconnected perspective. And from that disconnected perspective, suddenly everything looks very different. When you are present in life, when your nervous system says, everything's fine, we can be here, we can just focus on being present and surrendering to being present, then our focus is on the present and living it. But if our nervous system registers it's not safe to be present, so we disconnect from the present, we zoom out of the present, we disconnect from ourselves, from reality, suddenly we're looking at life, we're looking at ourselves from that disconnected perspective, which then makes you start looking at things and thinking about things differently. Suddenly you're zoomed out of your body and you go, who am I? Oh my God, I'm in a body. Suddenly you're very aware that, oh my God, I'm a human. Oh my God, I'm thinking. Oh my God, I have a consciousness, because you're not surrendered to that anymore. Your nervous system has taken you out of that, has zoomed you out of that. Same with life. You might have been present in life all along and never questioned anything. You disconnect because of that trauma, because of that lack of safety. Suddenly it's like you're looking at life from space. You're looking down thinking, oh my God, your nervous system's taken you out of the earth, literally put you out of space because the earth isn't safe enough, because existence isn't safe enough. And now you're looking down at everything and you're going, oh my God, I've never looked at life in this perspective before. And you start questioning every single thing. So I wanted to explain this because I truly believe that the power in recovery, not all of it, but a very large part, lies in understanding what's happening and understanding yourself, understanding your mind, understanding your brain. And very often it's the lack of understanding in your recovery and in what's happening with DPDR that makes us feel so scared of it. And I hope that this video helped you understand it a little bit better, especially the relationship between existential anxiety and DPDR. And also understanding that the core in actually overcoming both is, again, feeling safe and creating a safe an enough sense of safety within yourself again, so that your nervous system can allow you to be present again. That's a whole other topic. I'll put some links in the description if you're looking for some extra guidance or extra help in your recovery journey. And thank you guys for joining today, for watching today. I'm glad to have seen you still, and I will see you guys when I see you next in the next video. Bye.